1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move. Whatever click you choose, you better
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! For those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing on the intro. Like I keep telling y'all, man, I gas. But anyway, today, we getting ready to hop into this reaction video by Damien Porter. I definitely want you guys to go to his channel, check it out. I believe it's called Inside Story with Damien Porter. Anyway, you already know what it is, man. Let's hop right up into this reaction. Let's get cracking.
Welcome to another episode, everyone. High Desert State Prison. The gangsters in the IE car had a bloody showdown all over a dice game.
Now, for those out there who may not know what the IE car is, I seen somebody in the comments asking. The IE car stands for the Inland Empire car. The Inland Empire is made up of 2 counties, San Bernardino County and Riverside County. And San Bernardino County, if I'm not mistaken, is the largest county in the world. Anyway, let's get back into it.
I have alluded to before, there in prison, gambling is really a no-no. One should not do it for a myriad of reasons. Primarily, it can lead to plenty of danger. There was a dude there on BR in High Desert.
There was a dude there on B-Yard in High Desert. Hey, man, listen. Y'all know I had to get that in, man. Hey, shout out to Damien Porter, man. In my opinion, he got the best prison stories on YouTube right now. Let's keep it 100, man. We tune in to this prison genre for the fights, the riots, all the beep, boop, bop, bop, all that type of stuff going on, man, in prison. We tune in for that. So I don't see why dudes get mad when they hear a story about somebody or a certain collective that they favor getting the short end of the stick, man. If you don't like that stuff, don't tune in for it. Also, check it out. When Damien Porter first started his YouTube career, I interviewed him. If you missed that interview, I'm going to leave a link in the description. But let's get back. Y'all know I had to hit that Damien Porter impression, man. Let's go.
Four Deuce Gangster. I haven't run into many Four Deuce Gangster Crips in my time. I've run into a few, and all of them have been solid. Most of the time, I run into 4 Trey gangsters, but I've run into some 4 Deuce gangsters as well. And this one was wild. He was a bit young, and he was a bit out there, to tell you the truth. He was running around. He had a couple of fights on the yard. Now, this is a level 4, 270 yard. Weapons are indeed being used, but not as prolifically as on a level 4, 180 yard. But there is plenty of violence to speak of there on the level 4, 270, particularly in High Desert, once the most violent prison, at least in California. It was a dude from IE there, and I liked his style. And he proved me right in the end. Tall, dark-skinned, with short hair. But he carried himself well on the yard, tended to mind his own business, worked out, And oftentimes you can catch him walking the track solo. Didn't get into much drama whatsoever. However, he did sometimes like to gamble. This was probably his only vice, his only downfall.
Now, gambling is definitely something that I stayed away from when I was in prison. I used to gamble a lot on the streets, but the reason I started shying away from gambling in prison is because, you have a lot of individuals, man, who are from different cuts of cloth in prison, man. And sometimes you have people that are broke, and they will go use gambling not as a way of recreation, of passing time, because you have a lot who gamble to pass time, and of course they enjoy winning, but they do it as a way of passing time. But when you have broke dudes going over there trying to be slick, trying to use gambling as a way to come up that day, a lot of times it's not going to end well. And then if they are broke and cannot pay, it definitely is not going to end well.
Gamble and shoot dice there on the yard. Now, they had a stipulation there on the yard, at least amongst the gamblers. Whatever you lose, you have to pay within 24 hours. A lot of people there are making money. So the people who are gambling, shooting dice there at the table on the yard, they have money. And if they lose, they can send the money within 24 hours. A lot of things are coming in to the prison, and a lot of people have an opportunity to cash out, and many of them are taking advantage of this opportunity. So though it is prison, not everyone there is destitute. In fact, some people, again, have more money than some people on the street. And this is the understanding that they had. Whatever you get down, do not gamble past what you cannot pay, for obvious reasons. We don't want our cards to clash.
And it's easier said than done, because you may have an individual go to the gambling table, whether it be cards, pinochle, chess, what have you. He may go there with the intention of only losing the $50 that he has in his cell. But once he loses that, now in his desperation and panic, realizing that he has lost everything that he has, now he's trying to get back. So now he's going beyond the limit that he set for himself in order to try to get his money back. Because let's keep it 100. When everybody goes to gamble, they go with the intention of winning, and sometimes with the irrational belief in themselves. And so this sometimes is where the problem lies, and why I shied away from gambling the majority of my time in prison.
For there to be violence amongst us, do not gamble if you're not supposed to be gambling. Do not gamble if you don't have the money to pay. Don't go over there and enter that dice game, because the stipulation is real. The rule will not be flouted.
The rule will not be flouted.
You must pay within 24 hours if you step over here and gamble with us. We all must do this. Again, this is to keep down any unnecessary violence, because a lot of the violence, it arises because of a debt there in prison. A debt over an illegal substance. Dude kept buying this stuff, purchasing it, and couldn't pay for it. And now his homies have to get his ass off the yard. Or his people have to get him off of the yard. He's gambling. Got so far in debt, he can't pay. Then he must go.
And I've seen that happen at different times in different prisons, right? You have some dudes who will gamble, they'll get into a debt, and their homies, their collective will say, okay, you know what, we'll pay that debt for you. And then they deal with their homie however they're going to deal with their homie. But you have some dudes like my homie Chances. He said, hey man, listen, we not paying no debts. And he would let all the homies in the car know that if you get into it, we're not going to pay your debt. We're going to beat you up, do you bad, and get you off the yard. And so sometimes when someone would get in debt, and they may come and say, hey, Chances, your homie is in debt with us. He let them know, hey, listen, man, I don't pay another grown man's debts. But if you guys prefer, we will whoop that dude and get him up off the yard. So different individuals had different philosophies when it came to getting in debt.
And everyone understands that the violence, the intense violence, again, oftentimes arises out of a situation such as this, where you get into a gambling debt and you cannot pay. 4 Deuce Gangsta and IE is over there shooting dice, along with a lot of other people. Drew from Main Street was on the yard. This is my partner. Big Drew from Main Street was on the yard. HD Hoover D from 5 Deuce, Hoover Mike from 5 Deuce. There was some hitters over there on the yard. From everywhere. But 4 Deuce Gangsta is wild and intractable. He really cannot be controlled by his own car. He has a lot of influence in his own car, even though he's very young, perhaps 23 or so years old. They're over there gambling. Everything is going well at first. It's about maybe 10 people over there shooting dice. And everyone has been adhering to the stipulation thus far. You lose, you pay within 24 hours. No one has transgressed against this protocol. And this has kept the violence down on the yard as it relates to gambling anyway. And now they're over there shooting dice, and they're going further and further to the point where 4 Deuce Gangsta, he gets in the hole approximately $2,000. They gamble like this daily. $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 and more. Again, they can pay, and they have been paying one another.
Now, for those out there wondering how an individual in prison is able to pay a $1,500, $2,000, $4,000 debt, you have a lot of illicit activities going on, and the money that a person can make in prison are exponentially greater than what you would make hustling on the street, because the average job in prison, especially on a level 4, might pay, or when I was locked up, 8-10 cents. Maybe if you get a job for 15 or 20 cents an hour in prison, you're definitely lucky, because there's not a lot of high paying jobs on a level 4.
4 Deuce Gangsta is really new to this scene, and perhaps they didn't tell him this is very serious. They being his homies, his car, bro. If you're gonna go over there and gamble, make sure you got the money to pay. Cause them dudes over there, they serious about their money. They always, when they lose, they pay. So when they win, they want to get paid. That's it. And don't go over there playing no games, no county jail games, man. But apparently, they was hands off with 4 Deuce and let him run amok somewhat. This was a bit surprising, but it happened nonetheless. 4 Deuce, he gets down about $2,000 from the dude from IE over there, ripping him a new asshole on the dice, tearing him up. 5 minutes to yard recall. At that time, typically, the dice are put up. You have to put them up. They're about to search you and this and that. The police know that people on the yard shooting dice. They're not tripping as long as the violence is down. And that's what's been the case so far. So the police, they're not tripping. But still, you don't want to front them off. So when they call 5 minutes to yard recall, it's understood that the dice game is over. Everybody's preparing to go back inside of their building. 5 minutes to yard recall. 4 Deuce Gangsta, he still wants to shoot the dice because he has 24 hours to pay this debt. He's down $2,000 plus. And he has 24 hours to pay. And by the time they come to yard again, the debt should have already been paid. So he's not going to be able to come to yard and work the debt down by shooting the dice. So 4 Deuce is saying, IE, come on, man, let's finish. And IE says, along with everyone else, no, the dice game is over, bro. We got, basically we had this agreement with the Popo. We wrapped it, 5 minutes yard recall, it's a wrap. We wrap it up. You know this already. We already know the rules. Again, I guess he hasn't been laced with everything, but they pretty much explained this to him. 5 minutes yard recall, it's a wrap. He's not the first one to want to carry on after 5 minutes yard recall because of being in a situation, being down, trying to get some of your money back real quick. Even if you had the money to pay, you just want to, try to make a quick run or whatever. Shoot a man, ooh, you down $3,000. Maybe you can get it down to $2,000 in 5 minutes. Shoot 100. But the rules will not be transgressed against. They want to be able to continue to gamble there on the yard, not front the police off. So they're serious about this. It's a wrap. Or Deuce Gangsta, he becomes irate, incensed even. What you mean, bro? So I can't get no action back at my money? That ain't how it work, he says. Where I grew up at, my hood, bro, is people get unalive. They get killed for shit like this. Taking somebody's money and then running, bro. That ain't how we do it. I'm down $2,000. I gotta have action at my money back. You can't hit and run. You can't hit me for my money and then run and then tell me I just gotta pay it. Oh yeah, I can. Those are the rules, bro. It's 5 minutes yard recall. The dice game is over, and you have to pay within 24 hours. I'm not hitting and running. The dice game is over. This is what IE tells them, along with everyone else there. No, Fodu, the game is over. It's a wrap. You're not the first one to lose, bro. $2,000 ain't nothing. I mean, you got to pay that, bro. You shouldn't have been gambling. You got to pay that, though. Yeah, all right. That's what Fodu say. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. That's what IE say. Yeah, all right. Because IE, again, I just got a sneaking suspicion from the way that he carried himself, that he would stand up for himself as a man if put in that position. The IE car, they go to the gangster car. They tell him what the situation is. That essentially, Ford Deuce is acting like he's not going to pay because it was 5 minutes left of yard recall. The dice game is over. He didn't want the dice game to be over. He's using that as an excuse to be upset. And now you're like, hey, all right, basically get it how you get it. Coming on the yard, starting shit, bro. The dice game's been going just fine. Everybody's been paying their money. People have been paying $6,000, $7,000 within 24 hours. $8,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is, $500. He's down $2,000. People been losing more than that, and they pay. And here he comes with the rhetoric, with the nonsense, man. Shaking everything up, changing the dynamics of what we got going here on the yard. Y'all got to put y'all homeboy in check and tell him to pay the debt. And he's no longer welcome in the dice game. Because he gonna start some shit. If not with us, then with them or with them or with them. With someone at some point. Because of the way that he's carrying himself. Eventually, the gangsters said that they would pay the debt. Apparently, Ford Deuce didn't have the money, which means he should not have been over there gambling. He did not have.
And like I mentioned earlier, you'll have some individuals who won't have the money in they cell, but they'll go to this gambling spot with the intention and the overconfident belief that they're going to win and that this is going to be a payday. And then when it turns out the opposite way of what they plan, of course they have to create some type of diversion to avoid paying all this money.
Entire $2,000. So the gangsters said that they would step in, which is typical, and pay the debt for their homeboy that's inside of their car. That's a part of their car. They'll come together and pay it. This happens all of the time. But the IE car, truthfully, but it's bewildering and befuddling to me, but they were not happy with that. They said that they wanted Fort Deuce himself to pay this debt, that he could not and should not skirt responsibility, and that you are enabling him by paying his debt. He shouldn't have been.
Now, of course, I wasn't there at all, and this is Damien's story, and I believe what he said. But if that story happened the way he said it happened, then those dudes, the homies in the IE car, was 100% wrong at that point. Because as long as the debt is being satisfied, you shouldn't care who is being paid by or how it's being paid. As he mentioned before, that is a typical occurrence in prison. The dudes from the IE car, they shouldn't have cared if the money got sent from China in rice and then it was converted into US currency, because your intention is just to get paid. And once you will know that you're going to be paid, then that's all you need to worry about. So demanding that some individual specifically pay you is ridiculous. And what difference does it matter as long as you're getting paid?
Gambling, and then he's gonna huff and puff his chest out and act like he's not gonna pay, and then y'all gonna come up and pay it for him. No, bro, we want him to pay it. It gotta come from him. Now, typically, when a car says they're gonna pay, you just happy with that. Okay, I just get my money, and I'm good with that. Just give me my money, and y'all handle him however y'all gonna handle him. You don't. I've never seen anyone say, no, it has to come from him. The money has to come from this person specifically. But apparently it was personal at this point with IE and Fort Deuce GANGSTA. And he wanted Fort Deuce GANGSTA to suffer the consequences of gambling on his ass. He didn't want him to be saved by his homies. So he said, nah, bro, he got to pay me. I want him to pay me. But now the gangsters, well, they take umbrage to this because they're saying, well, now you're marking us out. You're just gonna tell us that he has to. We saying we'll pay you. You gonna make us make him pay you? He ain't got the money. How you gonna tell us where the money gonna come from when we saying we'll take care of it? It's not even our debt. It's not even our situation. But we're still saying that we'll take care of it. Instead of that being satisfactory, you want to carry on and put emphasis and stipulate on who has to pay the debt. Nah. And it was at this juncture that the gangsters began to have sinister machinations. They had decided amongst themselves that it was time to attack the IE car for their insubordination. Well, certainly for their temerity, unmitigated gall, and audacity to demand that a particular person pays the debt. And well, they were not happy about that. They decided to attack the IE car that same night there in the chow hall. Attacks in the chow hall are, I would say, rare. They're not necessarily common. They happen. Most of the time, it's spontaneous. An argument happens and violence ensues immediately. And it just so happens it was in the chow hall. But a planned attack rarely happens in the chow hall because you have, if you're Bloods, you have Crips there, and Mexicans and whites and others, and you just don't want knives swinging all over. We're in close proximity, and people are in there eating, and you over here fighting and stabbing each other and coming all across the table, and you're another race and this and that. It could just cause something to go up. So oftentimes, it happens on the yard, in the day room, inside of the cell, etc. But the gangster car is chomping at the bit to get their hands on the IE car. So they're not going to wait. They don't want to wait till tomorrow for y'all. They want to attack these people today because, again, they have taken umbrage. They said, they understood that Fort Deuce was wrong. That he should not have been over there gambling on his ass. But yeah, y'all should be getting on his ass then. And I guess they were going to get on him and pay the debt. Again, this is common. This is prevalent there in prison. But again, inexplicably, the IE car, they just were not happy with this. they specifically wanted this man to pay the debt. And they said they basically they're not accepting the money from nobody else. This dude got to pay, bro. You know, basically, or else. Now the IE car, they're not that deep. And some people don't see them as being strong or as strong as cars from Los Angeles. But this is not always the case, particularly in a prison like High Desert.
Now, what he just stated was facts, man. You know, I've mentioned this several times before. When you have any gang that's from outside of the Los Angeles area, not all, but you definitely will have some individuals who don't respect those dudes, don't believe that their cripping, their blooding, their pyroing, their gang banging is on the level of individuals from IE. And I've actually also seen this with Southsiders as well. I've seen Southsiders from San Diego, Southsiders from Riverside County, so on and so forth, have some issues in that same vein with Southsiders from Los Angeles.
Every car there is strong. Every one of them. You have to be. Essentially, every individual there is strong. Coming into these yards with your preconceived notions that you can trample upon a certain car because they are not as strong, well, it can leave you lifeless. When you enter the chow hall, and everything is going well at first. Everyone's sitting down eating. They're on BR in High Desert State Prison. And then all of a sudden, 4 Deuce first jumped up. 4 Deuce GANGSTA. He was perturbed, irate, and had taken it personal because they were trying to force him to pay. Well, yeah, you were the one gambling. But it's just the fact that they were trying to force him to pay, even though his homies had said that they would take care of it. And they should, so he felt like it's personal.
Now, a lot of times you guys will hear me, you know, quote things that I got or I learned from OG Chances, man. And the reason why is good knowledge is good knowledge, man. And prison is definitely a serious and violent place. And so when you learn something and you see that through just watching that what he's telling you or what you've learned can save your life, then you have to pay attention to it, man. He always said that small things grow to be big things. You may get into an argument with an individual and you're not necessarily tripping on it, but this other individual is tripping on it. And so I say all that to say, after the IE car had the argument with the dudes telling them that, hey, man, this individual has to pay us, they should have been on point. They know they on a 4 yard. Anything can happen. The 4 yard is always in prison, period, is a spontaneous and violent place. So by them having this argument and then failing to arm themselves was a grave error.
Dude, they want me. They're trying to do something to me. They want me off the yard. So he was going to respond because he's young and wild anyway. And now he had the perfect opportunity and excuse to perform. And he jumped up first with a weapon in hand and attacked the first dude from IE that he seen. And when he jumped up, well, 3 or 4 more gangsters jumped up. And indeed, they all had weaponry. The IE car really didn't stand a chance. They were.
And also, you know, by Damien saying that up there the IE car wasn't that deep, I'm assuming that the IE dude who got attacked did know what was going on. But sometimes that's another thing, you know, that Chances would stress. When you have an argument with someone, no matter how minute you may feel it is, you let the rest of your homies know. Because once again, small issues can grow to be big issues. The dude who had the argument may have felt that he was 100% in the right, and so he did not need to inform his homies about what was going on. And in situations like this, when you can be held accountable for something that someone in your car has done, it is extremely important, and it would behoove you to get this pertinent information. How you like that, Damien? See, I've been watching. I've been in my dictionary too.
They were ill prepared for what happened. I think perhaps they were planning something for the next day. They were going to get off on a gangster car. If Fort Deuce hadn't produced the money by then, the next morning or so on yard, or the next afternoon on the yard, they not expecting an attack inside of the chow hall, a planned attack, because again, it's rare. So they thinking, if anything is going to happen, it's going to happen tomorrow in the yard, and we're going to get off first. But no, when it's up, it's up. When it's on, it's on. And it was on. But the one dude from IE who was involved in the dice game, the one who carried himself like a champion from day one, well, he too produced a weapon. He's the only one from IE that had a weapon and that was prepared. Since he had already gotten to the funky situation with Fort Deuce Gangsta, he was already walking around on his tippy toe. He was alert and he was observing. When Fort Deuce jumped up with the weapon and attacked the first IE jumped up as well and produced his weapon and went right at Fort Deuce, because this is the guy that he wanted. And they were swinging their weapons at one another right there in the chow hall. And indeed, blood was shed. But the gangster car, the IE car, they didn't have a chance. A couple of them tried to get away, and gangster car, they were grabbing them by the shirt and hitting them, bro. They hit about 3 dudes up there in a chow hall. But IE, who was involved in the dice game, he wasn't one of them. He really left without a scratch, even though Fort Deuce had the burner and he had his burner. They was just going at each other. And IE was not scared whatsoever. He did not try to run or plead his case. He was just swinging his weapon. They sliced each other a little bit, but nothing major. But a couple of dudes did get injured in that attack there in the chow hall. All over a dice game. And this is why you're not really supposed to gamble in prison. It can lead to death. It can lead
to death. And so, yeah, once again, man, y'all definitely have to go check that out. Check his page out, Damien Porter Inside Story. Once again, I did an interview with him early in his YouTube career, and I will leave the link in the description. And so that's pretty much it, man. Unfortunately, dudes from IE got the short end of the stick. And, prison is a madhouse, man. When you choose to roll with a car or a collective, you could be doing your time right. You could be not gambling, following all the rules that pertain to your collective, and still get caught up in some shenanigans due to the actions of another individual. Now, in my opinion, the dude from IE who was gambling, he wasn't wrong at all. He was 100% in the right. The rules were the rules. When you lose, you expect to be paid. Now, was he wrong in demanding that the dude from Gangsters pay him? Yes, he was wrong, but that was just an error in his judgment. It wasn't anything I think that he should have been disciplined for later on down the line. But when someone is willing to pay you your money, get your money, man, whether it's coming from the dude that owes you, his homies, or his girlfriend on the street. Money is money, but once again, that's why gambling in prison is definitely not a good idea. Let's keep it 100, man. Everybody that's in prison is not there for doing their best of thinking. You have individuals, once again, from all type of walks of life with different type of character defects. Dudes wanting to be slick, dudes still stuck in criminality, and losing money when you're in a place where money is extremely important. A lot of people don't do that well, man. So anyway, shout out to Damien Porter from the Inside Story. You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.